Hey, I'm John Kassir, the voice of
The Crypt Keeper.
and you're watching the Son of Celluloid show.
Son of Celluloid! How's it going, folks? Nathan from Son of Celluloid back here at Days of the Dead, and we were talking to the one and only John Kassir.
That's right. The voice of the Crypt Keeper.
That voice just sent chills up my spine, man.
Excellent. Glad to be a part of your nightmares.
Now, you've said that when you were a child, you were a big fan of the EC comics.
I was.
When you read them, did you have in your mind an idea of what the Crypt Keeper sounded like? And was it any different than the voice you eventually created for the character?
Gosh, I don't remember really. It wouldn't have been what I'm doing now, because that was really something I made up on the spot when I went down and auditioned for Kevin Yeager for the voice, and I saw what it looked like.
Right.
And, put a little bit of Margaret Hamilton as the Wicked Witch in there for the laugh, and a little bit of, Alfred Hitchcock from Alfred Hitchcock Presents as that kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of delivery. I mean, it was very easy to know that in the comic book and the show, the Crypt Keeper's job was to bring a sense of humor to it and let you know that this is supposed to be fun.
Right.
Which I think is one of the reasons why the Crypt Keeper is so successful. As a host for a franchise, one of the Tales from the Crypt franchise is set apart from so many of the other ones. Not to mention that it had some great producers, great writers, great directors, and was done as best as you could do it on a television budget, So, but yeah, the Crypt Keeper used to make me laugh in the comic books, but I had always imagined him probably to talk like some old, British guy, rotting teeth kind of thing. Probably thought him more Cockney back then,
Now, you having a comedy background yourself, were you involved in writing the Crypt Keeper's material, or were the writers on the show there, and you were just reading it as they wrote it?
For the most part, I mean, they had good writers. Trust me, I've done stuff where they, pimped out the Crypt Keeper for some, product or some kind of promotion or something, and the writing wasn't good. It didn't flow well, and it really, you could tell the difference. It's just hard to speak.
Right.
And but over the years, I've had to create, a persona for the Crypt Keeper because I've had to do a lot of interviews on the radio and that kind of stuff as the Crypt Keeper.
Right.
And so certainly I improvised a lot of things as the Crypt Keeper over the years. And as the show evolved, I would improvise stuff, and the writers would pick up on that and use some of it eventually, which was always an honor to me because they were good writers. So I think probably I took the lead off of them, and then sometimes they took the lead off of me later on, and it was a really fun thing to do.
Do you personally have a particular favorite Crypt Keeper line?
Gosh, there's so many classic ones. Hello, boils and ghouls, and that kind of thing. There was one great line that I improvised that wound up on the show. It was. I like a girl who give you head, and then that you keep it. Which is something that I just threw out there. I never thought they'd use it, but of course it was HBO, so they were allowed to use it.
Right.
And they put the Crypt Keeper in bed with some dead girl, and he puts his arm around her, and her head falls off into his lap, and he delivers that line. So that was kind of a fun thing. But one of the more classic ones that I always liked is like, I'm your master of ceremonies. I always like that, which kind of captures the Crypt Keeper in a good way too.
You ever bust that voice out to fuck with telemarketers?
No, I don't. That would encourage them, I think. Yeah.
Probably. Now, I've noticed in in Ritual and in the DVD releases, they used a different Crypt Keeper puppet. Is the original one still around, and why did they change to a different one?
Well, the original one is still around. It takes 5 puppeteers, to make it work, which is expensive, and so they had created this other, automated Crypt Keeper puppet to use interviews when they couldn't afford the puppeteers and that kind of stuff, which is too bad because the puppeteers are very talented, and the Crypt Keeper and the show is such quality.
Right.
And I know that we did some stuff for FearNet, and that new puppet to me, it just doesn't have the same thing to it. And, I mean, fans love it, no matter what luckily the voice is bringing it to life and this kind of thing. And it does look like the Crypt Keeper. It just doesn't work quite as well. And it takes somebody good, working that one as well. So it would be nice if it was, if they could have the original Crypt Keeper puppet, which was an expensive puppet.
Right.
It's not only the puppeteers, but every time they bring the Crypt Keeper to life, they had to remove all this rubber because it's so thin it breaks down and tears as they use it.
Okay.
So, they were constantly repairing the corners of the mouth and
Right.
adding things to make it look all wet and gooey and stuff like that. So it involved a team to make the Crypt Keeper come to life for every episode.
Right.
So to do that for promotional type things and that kind of thing was not always the easiest thing to do.
Right.
And that's really the only reason. The show and the producers have always wanted to keep up the quality of the show, but things are what they are.
Yeah. Now, the first time I ever saw your work, without even knowing it was you, until a couple years ago, was the Legend of Zelda Commercial.
Oh, that's funny.
I've seen,
Kind of an Eraserhead takeoff.
And I remember
Zelda,
quoting
Zelda.
that with my friends back and forth playing.
It's on
the game.
YouTube. You can find it now. Look up John Kassir Zelda. You'll find it.
What was the concept? What they tell you to? Because it looks like they just put you in a dark room and said, "Go nuts."
That's
man.
it. We shot all kinds of weird stuff. I think the concept was that the guy was so into the game he found himself inside the game.
Right.
Was kind of the idea. I mean, video games were before that were like Pong,
right,
and Space Invaders, and that kind of thing. But there wasn't anything. Hello, creeps. So it was something new. It was something different. And that was it came on almost like it looked like an 8-track cassette, at the time. And that kind of thing. So, it was definitely, people look at it today and it looks dated or whatever, but it was very provocative when it came out. People were like, oh, what the hell is this? I got to check this out, And of course, Zelda, that was, when that game came out, there was nothing that had, a fan base like that game.
I lost many, many hours of my life to that game.
Yeah, it was the first of its kind. It was already like exploding in Japan at the time, if my memory serves me right, and became, the biggest game in America overnight, So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to be part of it. I had won Star Search as a stand-up comedian at the time. And so a lot of people were asking me to come in and do that kind of thing for their commercials.
Yeah. Speaking of being a comedian on stage, in many of your bios, there's a line where it says that you once performed improv with Robin Williams on stage, and he didn't know it was happening. That sounds like an interesting story. What was that? What is that all about?
Well, I didn't write the "didn't know it was happening" thing.
That sounds odd.
I don't like that people can add to your biography on Wikipedia, and I think that either they were commenting on the fact that Robin is so in his own mind when he's doing that thing, or back then he was off drugs by then, that kind of thing and stuff. I don't know whether it was a snarky comment or what it was, but I'd love to have it removed, but it's I don't know. I think they were trying to be funny. I would hope that they're trying to be funny and not trying to be mean.
Yeah.
I certainly would never have written something like that to Robin, and but I mean, it is true. When I used to do improv, there'd be people like me and Rick Overton. I mean, Robin was on stage, and Rick Overton would jump up, and me and maybe Charlie Flesher or somebody like that would jump up, and you really followed whatever jet stream Robin Williams was going in, but we
hang on for the ride.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, and it was all improvised at the Improv on Melrose. But that was a long time ago. Yeah.
Now, another project you did that it's almost impossible to find any information about online or any footage of anything was Johnny Time.
Johnny Time.
What can you tell me anything about that? And is there any plans to release that at any point?
Johnny Time was on the USA Network for 2 seasons. It was my own kid show. Originally designed as a kid's show to be for adults.
Okay.
Kind of like Pee Wee Hermanish, but very psychedelic.
Okay.
And the idea was to do a kid's show, but the themes would be more adult, like, today's theme, it looked like you were watching like Howdy Doody, but the theme was about, investing your money or, erectile dysfunction or something.
Right.
But as we were pitching it, I was approached by Viacom. They were trying to create a kid show.
Okay.
And while they were pitching me this kid show, I said, well, I do have my own idea for a kid show. And
Right.
I pitched them Johnny Time, and they bought it on the spot.
Nice.
And we took it over to USA Network, and it was supposed to be the flagship for the USA Network.
Mm-hmm.
It's still skewed well for,
Right.
kids and stoners.
Yeah.
And
Similar audiences.
yeah. Well, USA Network wound up not having the money to develop the whole children's programming that they wanted to do.
Right.
So I pretty much wound up like the only original kids programming on the USA Network. So it was kind of like the lead into the WWF on Sunday mornings.
There you go.
And it was a really, really great
Kind of
show.
surprised I didn't see it then.
Oh, it was a really amazing show. It was, reviewed as one of the top children's shows to come out in a long time by TV Guide and that kind of thing. And so we had high hopes for it. But the good news was we caught USA Network when they were trying to create something new. The bad news is that they didn't have the money to develop it. To develop other things around it. So we wound up kind of running for 2 seasons and then going away. And
Any chance we'll get to see that footage?
I'm gonna start putting pieces of it on YouTube.
Cool.
It's really, really creative. This is long before like Mike Myers was on Saturday Night Live and that kind of thing. But if I had to say what was it like, I was like, imagine Mike Myers doing his own kid show.
Okay.
It was that kind of thing. It was me. I played all the other characters except the kids I could pull in through the TV set.
Okay.
And they would have something like the kid had lost her braces, and I would take her into the couch, and we would go in. There would be like all these weird characters living in the couch,
Nice.
and then I had a bunch of stock characters that were on the show
Okay.
and that kind of thing. It was a really, really fun time. I had to hire all my friends, all
go.
my talented director friends, talented art director friends, writer friends, producer friends, and that kind of thing. And we made something we loved making. So it's one of my favorite things I ever did, and I'm real proud of it. So hopefully one day it'll get out there, to a new audience.
Yeah, speaking of kids shows, did it surprise you at all when they decided to turn the Crypt Keeper into a cartoon character?
Not at all, because I had been plugging them to do a kids version of it for a long time. Nobody had to die in it, a live action version.
Right.
And they were like, nah, too scary for kids. And then they did a cartoon version of it. I go, you still could do a live action version. And of course, then Goosebumps came out. And I was
Right.
like, see, I told you. But they didn't listen to me. But, that's how it goes.
Cool. Well, what you got going on now? You got any upcoming projects you want to tell us about?
I'm still doing a lot of the interactive games, Skylanders, and all these, great games that are out.
Right.
In the new new Batman Warner Brothers game, I play, like a cowardly thug. That's
Nice.
He's a great character. He's always whining and stuff. He's a good character. And that kind of thing. There's a lot of other interactive games, of course. You can't talk about them until they come out. And it's my girlfriend, ladies and gentlemen, in the background.
She's a growler.
I'll let you out later, honey. Jack the Giant Slayer, which I did this came out last year, is now out on DVD. So we're promoting that.
How many times on the set of that one did the obvious little head joke get made?
Oh, all the time. Originally, it was they called him Small Head because it was originally Little Head in the script, but they were afraid every time somebody, hey, can we get a little head on the set?
Yeah.
I didn't think it would go over really well. So, we had so much fun doing that. And Bill Nighy, obviously the British actor Bill Nighy, and I had an amazing time. He was, not only amazing actor, but just amazing to work with. I very easily could have gotten some egomaniac in that role who didn't want to let me do my stuff, because it's really, as a little head on somebody's shoulder, it's really easy to steal focus if you want to. You know what I mean? And motion capture is a very involved process, so it was, hard work, but we had a lot of fun doing it. It was really, and Brian made an amazing film, and a lot of people are catching it now that it's on DVD and is getting huge reviews. Now that it's moved from the big screen to the little screen as well. And I did a pilot called Bump and Grind, and hoping, we'll see what happens with that. It's always, crapshoot in this business.
Yeah.
You just keep working and hope you keep working, staying busy. Hopefully coming to a convention near you.
Well, Mr. Kassir, I'd like to thank you very much for
you
talking
very
to me.
much. My pleasure.
And stay here on the Son of Celluloid show for more interviews from Days of the Dead.